Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry. In today's video, I'm going to be summoning on the Madcap Misfits Summon Showcase. I'll also briefly discuss the new adventurers and new dragons featured on this showcase. So for the showcase info this time around, the highlight is definitely Chelsea, the 5-star. She has a very unique personality, unlike anyone we've seen in the game, where she's very obsessed with Luca, apparently. I don't know the history of this since she wasn't featured in the event, so I think you can only get that backstory if you actually summon her. Basically, the way Chelsea's kit works is that she damages herself to put herself at low HP and deal even more damage out. So Love's Liberation is her first skill. It's a damage dealing skill. It seems very simple. However, Bruiser Bliss, her second skill, interacts with that. And I've heard the untranslated names of these are pretty funny, deal with her obsessive personality, but the translated ones are fine, I guess. So it activates Obsession for 60 seconds, during which her strength goes up by 30%, but she takes damage equal to 3% of her max HP every time she uses an attack or skill, and her HP becomes restored by 5% of the damage inflicted by Love's Liberation, up to a maximum of 49% of her max HP. The effects of Obsession do not remove, or are removed upon shapeshifting. So basically, while you're in Bruiser Bliss, you're going to be taking damage constantly, but your Love's Liberation, every time you use that, is going to heal you partially. Of course, as a bow, she has Skill Haste. I say that as though that's always the case, but now we do have new co-abilities occasionally, so it is something to be mindful of, that there could be a different co-ability. Her first ability is HP below 30% equals strength and attack rate 3. So she's going to get 20% strength and 10% attack rate when her HP is 30% or below. That is a pretty sizable buff, considering she has a way within her kit to get herself to a low HP, so that's great. Stun res of 100%, and then Obsessive Love 2, while the Obsession effect is active, increases strength by 30% and decreases defense by 20%. So I know that Chelsea is a very powerful damage dealer. She obviously works fantastic with the new print, Dear Diary, which works well not just on bow adventurers, but in many settings it works well on other types of adventurers, just for that resilient offense effect, which is so powerful. But the one thing with her is you face that trade-off, sort of like with Natalie, but at least Natalie has a shield, and some of the environments where Natalie shines, like the Mercurial Gauntlet at lower levels, you can iframe and so on. When it comes to Chelsea, I guess she would also be good in that context at lower levels, but there's definitely some risk involved because the High Dragon that she would specialize against, High Midgard Stormer, there are sections of unavoidable damage where you're taking chasers or markers in that fight, the Tattered Sky and Storm Chaser attacks. So you do have to kind of be careful, if your Obsession effect is active and your defense is low, you want to make sure you aren't dying. But at the same time, I really like her kit. I just think they made a very cool character, very unique kit with this, so I'm happy that this is pretty creative. Then we got Kagutsuchi, who's a 5-star. This is basically the dragon that we had last time, Haster and Wind, but for Flame. So Flame strength 45%, Prime strength 15%. All of the discussion I had about Haster would pretty much apply here, except that Kagutsuchi can't inflict sleep, it inflicts burn instead. Slightly weaker, but can help with certain characters who want to maintain burn uptime for effects like Burning Punisher on the Elegant Escort Wormprint. But I would say probably Haster is a little bit better. I'm trying to think though of whether there are certain situations where Kagutsuchi might have more applications than Haster. I really can't think of any, to be honest. I think they're pretty similar, where Kagutsuchi, similar to Haster, is somebody who's going to be better in single player because of being able to actually use that primed effect to power up your strongest DPS, and in co-op probably going to be slightly worse than, say, just a Cerberus. And then we get Yuya, who's a 4-star. Unfortunately for Yuya, his damage modifiers are just not that good, even though he kind of has an okay kit. So Deadly Joyride is a damage-dealing skill that increases Yuya's attack rate by 20% for 10 seconds. Dealing damage and getting an attack rate buff seems great on paper, but I believe the damage modifiers on this are like less than 1,000%. I think it's somewhere around 800% damage, and this skill costs over 4,000 SP to charge, so it's relatively slow to charge. His second skill, Rowdy Rumbler, costs over 10,000 SP to charge, so over twice as long. It increases the whole team's defense by 10% for 15 seconds, and everybody gets a shield that nullifies one hit of less than 20% of the user's max HP. Again, not really anything special. This is similar to what Emma is able to do, I believe, on her second skill, but she has a lot more utility in a team comp with her buffing. Besides that, Yuya does have critical rate as a co-ability, which is kind of nice. And he is the first Flame Dagger with 100% stun res, which is also something. Prime Devastation as his final ability. Nice, in co-op it's going to apply to him, give him more critical rate. In single player, maybe if you have some type of team where this defense buff is relevant, he could be okay, but I really don't think he can fit very effectively into higher-end Mercurial Gauntlet teams. I think his damage output's just not going to be as good as just bringing along Emma. And unlike Emma, he actually needs to be able to deal some amount of damage himself. Emma could run a dragon like Phoenix and just support the team purely through buffs and through regen healing, whereas Yuya is not going to be able to do that. The one thing that's kind of cool about him is the ability Chicken at Heart. So when his HP is 60% or above, he does get a whopping 20% extra strength, just flat. But when his HP falls below 60%, that means his strength is also going to fall 20% below its norm. So that's a pretty unfortunate trade-off. I think it's actually good for a lot of easier content, like the lower level Mercurial Gauntlet. 20% flat strength is great, but for harder content, like High Midgard Stormer, where there are unavoidable attacks, you probably will have over 60% of your HP a lot of the time, but even with that boost, I don't think Yuya's damage output is very good. So Yuya is not the greatest here, but despite that, I'm going to go in and summon and stop, I think, at the point where I have Yuya and get one more 5-star after I get my first Yuya. So besides that, Reina is on a rate up on this showcase. I do have her. Kagutsuchi, as we already saw, and then for a 4-star, the other 4-star is Serena and Ifrit. So really, for me here, the reason I'm summoning is mostly just because this is going to be the easiest opportunity to get Yuya. I'm not lacking any of the 4-star adventurers in the game right now, and I don't really want to end up fishing for a 4-star on a gala. I'd rather just get the 4-stars and maintain them on the banners where they're on a rate up. And if we happen to get lucky and get Chelsea, or maybe get a copy of Kagutsuchi, which we can turn into a Sunlight Ore via Dragon Bond, then so be it. That's great. That's beneficial to us. But let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do our singles, our 10 singles, and then we'll start looking into 10-folds. If we don't have Yuya, we may summon a while. If we get him pretty early, I'll probably stop because I think that Gala could be promising. I think we're probably looking at Gala Ellie or Gala Luca here. There's some possibility of a Gala Alex. I do think they're going to stick within this domain of story characters, but they may go out of their way to bring somebody like Gala Leaf. We did get Patia randomly on our, what was it? It was the banner with Fractured Futures, but I'm trying to remember if it was actually called Fractured Futures, and I think it was, but it was the banner with Delphi, Patia, and Cassandra. We got Patia then, so I do think there's a chance that they just throw us Gala Leaf to kind of complete the Sparrows. And especially since there's not a story chapter this month, I did see some comments asking me whether Gala is confirmed. And we've been told in the past that it should happen around every 2 months. So I'm expecting it to happen, but I guess technically at the time I'm recording this, it wasn't necessarily confirmed. So there might be some off chance that they wait on Gala to sync it up with the next story chapter. But I kind of doubt that would happen. I think we are going to get our Gala this November and then our next one at the end of January. We're going to get a 5-star. That was fast. And it's a dragon. Okay. Alright. Not bad. So we got a Kagutsuchi. I think that for right now, I probably won't have too much of a use for this other than unlocking myself a Sunlight Ore through the bond. But the fact that at 1 copy you get that 10% prime strength, it's not a bad dragon to throw on an AI for sure and power up your strongest character, especially if that AI is a buff bot like Emma. The unfortunate thing I think with the harder level Mercurial Gauntlet, or call it what you will, unfortunate or not, but I do think that you need some healing, primarily through your helper, but probably a Phoenix on Emma is appropriate as well. So I don't know where you fit in somebody like Kagutsuchi, unless you have a max unbound copy and the adventure they're equipped to is also contributing some amount of damage. But still, always good to get a new dragon. You're going to be able to get that bond up. You're going to get Sunlight Ores, which eventually become Sunlight Stones. So let's see where we're at. Obviously, we just reset. We still have 57 singles, 60 tenfolds. So let's keep going and see if we get Yuya. And whenever we get him, we'll try to get one more. We'll get 1 5-star afterward to break our pity rate. And hopefully that will be Chelsea. That would be awesome. I've heard people describe Chelsea's personality as yandere. I'm not too familiar with that, but from what I researched on the topic, yes, I think that that's probably what they are going for. Kind of creepy, kind of insane, but at the same time, there's like a weird charm about Chelsea as a character. I think that she has a pretty cool design with all the bandages and whatnot, and different enough than Cerise that I think that they can coexist, and also with Valentine's Ezlith, because Valentine's Ezlith being a burn enabler, she kind of has her own spot as well. As far as high-end play, I know there have been Chelsea clears of Master High Midgard Sormer, Expert High Midgard Sormer, although I do wonder, in your typical public lobby, if you go in with a Chelsea, what your success rate looks like. Because I do think that the pressure to heal might be kind of interesting in that type of situation. Like, does your healer let you stay at low HP? Do they know when to patch you up and make it so that you survive unavoidable damage? I think that there's a little bit more complexity probably into healing a Chelsea, which might make it harder to find rooms with her. Right now I've been putting all my chips on my Mikoto, even though I do have Reina at 50 node, but Mikoto has all my augments. I find myself being much more comfortable playing with Mikoto. I think just having used him longer, kind of knowing when his skills fill up, and his skills being somewhat shorter in duration than Reina's, where with Reina, I feel like I'm stuck in animation for a long time. And if I were trying to bait with her, it would be kind of a disaster. With Mikoto, I feel like I can actually bait decently on a better day. So I've been trying with him, but it's hard to find a room sometimes. So I don't know if that will change when we get to 60 nodes, but I may end up entering the Master High Dragon trials through a different first dragon than HMS. And a lot of the advice I've seen is to start with HMC or HZD. So very similar to the experts. All right, we need 2 more to increase our 5-star rate, and then we'll break into the tenfolds here. So hopefully we get a good 5-star. One of the things I feel with summoning is the rate of 4-stars and new 4-star dragons and adventurers has just been a bit low as well. I kind of mentioned this in my previous video, but to kind of look back and think about it, over the past month when we had the Stirring Shadows Part 1 and Part 2, neither of those banners had a new 4-star. And for many people, that can be the highlight because that's something that you can target more effectively. Prior to that, we did get Patia, we had Noelle, we had Emma, we were getting 1 per banner roughly. So we were getting some new 4-stars, but it does feel like the well has dried up a bit, especially if you've been playing and summoning for a while and that you have most of these 4-stars. The Halloween banner also did a good job of this because we got 2 brand new 4-stars, which I hadn't taken much time to talk about, so depending on how quickly we're able to summon a 5-star and Yuya here, maybe I'll touch on the Halloween banner as well. You may have seen at the end of my last video that I did summon my free summons on the Halloween banner, and I got some pretty good stuff, so I'll probably take a moment to show that off. Here we're only going to get the bare minimum, but maybe it'll be a dagger? It is a dagger. All right, let's ride it out until the end. It's very likely to be Yuya. Hopefully it is Yuya, so that from here we could just get our 5-star and be on with our day. But, all right, we got him. Oh, okay. His pompadour is more complex than I previously anticipated. I didn't realize that this red part was behind the main part of the pompadour spatially. Or maybe that's even like a piece of his jacket or something. No, I think it's part of his hair, so he's got a pretty wild look. Oh man, his facial expression. Yeah. Oh, I see what's going on here. Whoa. Alright, so he looks very angry. He looks like a gangster for sure. He has the single braid in the back. Pretty cool designed character, and the fact that he rides around on a motorcycle and hits people is kind of awesome. So I really like... Yeah, I really like what they've gone for with this character. I do wish he was a little bit better as an adventurer, but pretty unique design. The chicken at heart is kind of fun, so I imagine there's going to be some good story about that. So, a young ruffian who rides a chariot of his own creation, though he can be gruff and quick to resort to violence, he has a deep respect for anyone who he recognizes as truly tough and is eager to learn from their example. That sounds like a good character to me. Rebellious rider, Yuya. I still hope and hold out hope that someday these adventurers who get introduced without a corresponding event actually get a proper event of their own. There's a lot of characters like that where the event's a rerun, but a new banner comes out, and we get these awesome characters, but maybe that's part of how they incentivize us to summon, is by saying the story is only available if you actually summon on these. You're not going to get any other kind of context. But we got Yuya, so let's continue with our tenfolds. Hopefully it doesn't take us too long to break our pity rate here, so we can have ample savings for the gala. And we'll see what the gala ends up, but looks like we're going to break our pity rate right away, so this will probably be the last of our summons. We're going to get a lot of 4-stars and then 1 5-star. Let's see a bow. Alright, we're going to see a dragon. Maybe it's another copy of Kagutsuchi to start unbinding. I wouldn't mind a Freya. I have a couple of unbinds on a Freya. And the only other dragon besides Haster that I'm missing is Popstar Siren. So she could also be good for a first copy. I think it's coming up after this one. And it's going to be another copy of Kagutsuchi, so I'll take it. I'll probably... Actually, I might wait on unbinding it, because maybe I could stack up multiple prime strengths on a single adventurer. That might be kind of interesting. I'm not sure what context that would be super beneficial for right now, but I don't have any reason to unbind them either, per se, so I think everything else is just going to be a duplicate. Here's Karina, though. Karina has been fantastic in some of these Master High Brunhilde clears. She has been awesome with the amount of buffs she can receive. But I guess that's all we're going to do today. We got our Yuya. We're set. We have all the 4-stars. We don't need to go out of our way to go crazy for Yuya one day. I don't even know how much we'll summon on the gala, but obviously if we need to or want to, we have the resources. Let me just go to our collection really quick so I can share with you the situation as far as Halloween went. So on my free summons over the weekend that Halloween started, I did get Mim. So I went ahead and took Mim up to 50 nodes, mainly due to her unique co-ability. I do think she's a powerful adventurer with her really strong ability to debuff the enemy as well as buff the entire team. So I think she's a pretty good adventurer, unique co-ability, although the defense co-ability on axes is pretty good as well, so not necessarily an upgrade. Flameworm's Sweet Nature is okay, but I think that there's lots of dragon transformations that are also good nowadays in Flame, so I don't know that this is actually as good as any other ability slot. Like if this were just HP 70% equals strength, or even something like skill damage of 30%, I wonder if that would just be better. And then this increasing her defense when shapeshifted and increasing her dragon damage, it's okay. I guess that Mim will always have a dragon-centric hit in this game, which makes sense with her character. But besides Mim, I was able to pick up Halloween Odetta, and I went ahead and promoted her because I think she has a lovely outfit with a spider theme. One of the prettiest artworks I think I've seen in the game. And Halloween Odetta is honestly a very good adventurer. Similar to regular Odetta, but she can buff for a greater amount on her second skill, with the trade-off being that it no longer heals. And then I think that her kit with the prime defense, you can also use this for something like a Valiant Crown type wordprint on her. So that's pretty good. The one big drawback with her though, and this seems to be just a recurrent thing in the game, is she doesn't have burn res, she has sun res. And there's very few adventures that actually have burn res, which narrows the scope of who can be used easily in High Brunhilde's trial. Not necessarily eliminating her though, because for Master, the healing requirements are not as tight for Thaniel. They're a little tighter in Expert. It's a little bit harder to heal the amount you need in Expert, but in Master, the segments of unavoidable damage, of burn, are spread out a little bit further, giving more leeway for characters who don't have burn res to participate. So you've seen things like Karina come in pretty easily, Xander, Summer Julieta, these powerful water adventurers, Dragon Yule Cleo, who don't have burn res, but a Thaniel of any type is probably going to be sufficient if they know when to heal to be able to heal them. I think Odetta is a little bit slept on because with her team buff, she's actually quite powerful. She compares very favorably to Summer Celiera and Xander. The thing is, at some point you need main DPSs and not just pure buff bots. And so when you think about the usual comp of High Brunhilde's trial, if one of the recipients of her buff is going to be Thaniel and another recipient is going to be Elisanne, well, you're somewhat diluting the effectiveness of that buff as it's being spread out over adventurers who don't deal a lot of damage themselves. So I think it's mostly a team comp thing, the reason that you don't see her more often, and that you'd probably prefer to see a Summer Celiera or even a Xander compared to her, because they have more personal DPS. But I really like her. I think she is a strong adventurer, just doesn't really fit in as well right now. And then the other adventures I haven't promoted yet, but I did get Halloween Lowen. Halloween Lowen, probably the most meta impacting of everyone on that banner. So the fact that he can actually apply regen and a defense buff on his first skill is fantastic. It makes him a great healer for any level of difficulty of High Midgardstormer's trial. He doesn't have stun res, so it's something to consider, something that you'll want other members of your team to be able to compensate for. If, say, you're in Master, you do need somebody who's not going to be stunned right away to be able to go and bait the first three-way Tempest that High Midgardstormer throws out. On his second skill, Halloween Lowen can also buff the team's max HP, which is awesome. Makes it a lot easier to survive. Should make it easier to intentionally take some damage for Dear Diary strats, I believe. And then everything else is pretty standard for a healer. Sleep res, like I mentioned, the skill prep of 75%, which you can either use the force charge to get up to 100%, or bring along some skill prep on a wordprint. By doing that, you would allow him to cast his skills before the opening blast of a high dragon, easing the entry barrier because you're getting some defense, you're getting some extra max HP. So Lowen actually is very good. I've seen him used to very good effect in Master High Midgardstormer's trial. And all of the other Halloween adventurers were reruns, but we did get Halloween Meridimus as a new dragon. So I went ahead and there he is right at the top. I went ahead and spent 4 stones to unbind Halloween Meridimus. The way that my summoning worked out was I got all of the 4 stars and Halloween Mim from the free summons, and I decided to dump in about 50 more pulls in order to try get Meridimus, and thankfully it worked out. I did get 1 copy, mostly just to kind of stay up to date with my collection. Right now I'm only missing Marishiten for limited dragons, and I want to try keep it that way. Keep it to a narrow scope so that if there were ever a limited dream pull, I could actually get a copy of Marishiten and round out my collection. But for Meridimus, I went ahead and spent the stones knowing that I'm never going to summon another copy, at least for a long time. And I do think, besides Halloween Lowen, Meridimus is probably the second most meta impactful of that particular banner. So the Hocus Pocus skill is great. It heals all allies, creates a buff zone that increases the skill damage of adventurers inside it. HP 30% is fine, and then this skill haste is what's very interesting with Meridimus. So the two adventurers that can use Meridimus well for right now are pretty much Elisanne and Thaniel. Elisanne because this lets her get out her buffs very rapidly, and Thaniel because it gives him some more leeway in terms of his healing. It's a partial HP dragon, but the skill haste, for certain segments, you actually can sneak in an extra heal. The time I'm thinking about in particular with like Expert High Brunhilde's Trial is before the first Muspelheim attack. You have time to heal an extra time if your rotations are pretty tight. So I do think the skill haste can help, and if your rotations are not as crisp, this could probably compensate for a little bit of extra movement or bad volcano placement. So I like Meridimus. I think it's a good dragon. I don't really run Elisanne or Thaniel, so I haven't had occasion to use Meridimus necessarily. But how do you not like this adorable dragon? I mean, look at this. Look at this little guy on a shooting star, and this one, all these and pumpkins right here. I mean, they're so cute. So I'm really glad and fortunate that it worked out, and I was able to get him, and just the way he's waving his arms around. I mean, pretty cute dragon all around. Well, I'm going to go ahead and power up Yuya. I guess we're not going to be getting Chelsea this time around, but we'll see what happens with the gala. Let me know if you got Chelsea, if you decide to summon on this showcase, and what reason you did so for. But that is going to do it for this video, everyone. So I'll see you very soon with regards to Mega Man, with potentially a new gala or not. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.